Which home is programmed in your GPS? I stared at his dashcam logs. For the past month, he took a detour after work every single day, driving past his ex-girlfriend's apartment. He claimed it was just on the way. But our house is on the east side, and hers is on the west side. 2 years of marriage, and his gas bills were double everyone else's. I checked the E-ZPass statements 108 times. He drove right under her building. I confronted him with the records. He slammed his phone onto the table. Are you insane? Is driving past a building illegal now? Last week was her birthday. His car was parked in her apartment's underground garage for 4 hours. He said he was helping her move furniture. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I taped the E-ZPass statement to the fridge and put on my coat. Tomorrow, drive me back to our old college campus. To the trail where we first held hands. I had already told my lawyer to draft the divorce papers. If after walking that trail his heart was still with me, we'd keep going. If not, then that trail would be where we parted ways. Are we going or not? What's so special about a stupid trail? Ethan sat in the driver's seat, impatiently honking the horn. In the morning, I had taped the E-ZPass statement to the fridge, asking him to take me back to our college campus. In the past, every sticky note I left on the fridge would be carefully collected by him in a wooden box. He used to say they were proof of our love. Now, that billing statement only got me a sour face and an aggressive grab of his car keys. I opened the back door and sat in the back seat. Ethan looked at me through the rearview mirror. Why are you sitting in the back? Am I your chauffeur now? I said, the passenger seat is pushed too far forward. That was Haley's habit. She was petite and always liked to push the passenger seat all the way to the front. Ethan frowned. Then just adjust it back. It's not a big deal. Seeing that I didn't move, he shook his head and started the engine. The car was filled with the heavy scent of Haley's favorite perfume. My throat felt itchy, and I coughed twice. Ethan snapped immediately. What's wrong with you now? I'm allergic to heavy perfumes. You forgot. Haley rode in my car yesterday to meet a client and sprayed it. Don't be so dramatic, okay? He glanced at me through the mirror, his eyes full of annoyance, and rolled down the window. The wind rushed in, diluting the scent a bit. 3 years ago, when he first bought this car, just to pick me up from work, he put charcoal bags in the car 2 weeks in advance and wiped the leather seats with lemon water every day. Because I had told him that the smell of a new car made me sick. Back then, he wouldn't even hang any ornaments on the mirror. He said they would swing around and make me dizzy. Now, a cute little charm Haley gave him hung right from the rearview mirror. I closed my eyes. Can you take that charm down? It's making me dizzy. Why do you have so many issues today? Ethan slammed on the brakes. I lurked forward, hitting the back of the front seat. My chest throbbed with pain. I held my chest and said nothing. Ethan glanced at me again through the mirror and adjusted the AC vents to blow cold air to the back. In the past, this tiny bit of care would have made me happy for days. Now it just felt pathetic. I looked at the barren trees outside, pulling my coat tighter. He said, Haley custom ordered that charm for me. She said it brings good luck. It's bad luck to take it down. I rubbed my aching temples. He used to drive so smoothly, slowing down long before a red light. He was always afraid that sudden braking would make me throw up. Now, because he was in a hurry, he kept weaving in and out of lanes. With every sharp turn, my stomach churned. I said softly, slow down. I can't. Haley said her cat is having severe anxiety and is hiding under the bed. I need to finish this walk with you quickly so I can go help her. Doesn't she have a boyfriend? You know she just broke up and is in a terrible mood. Why are you picking a fight over a hurting girl? I let out a soft laugh and didn't reply. The car speakers suddenly blasted heavy metal music, Haley's favorite. My stomach felt worse and worse as the trees outside blurred past. I didn't even have the energy to ask him to turn it down. I need some loud music to stay awake.
You just sleep, he said.
In the past, as long as I was in the car, the playlist was strictly soft piano music. He said he didn't want to disturb my rest. Now, even my voice annoyed him. My phone vibrated. It was a text from my lawyer. Hi, Avery. The divorce settlement has been sent to your email. Please review it. Right then, Ethan's phone rang too. He picked up the FaceTime call. Haley, what's wrong? Ethan, the cat still won't come out. I'm so scared. Don't worry. I'll be there as soon as I finish this routine check with Avery. A routine check. That was what he called the final walk of our 8-year relationship. Then hurry up, please. I can't do this alone. Okay, wait for me. Ethan hung up and sped up even more. I stared out the window, my eyes burning. Ethan, I called him. What now? I paused, then said, nothing. Just focus on the road. We pulled into a highway rest stop and Ethan's phone rang again. How did you cut yourself? Don't move, I'm coming right now. He put out his cigarette, threw the door open, and hopped back into the driver's seat. Ethan, I'm not in the car yet. He didn't look back. I walked to the car, and just as my hand touched the rear door handle, the car jolted forward. The sudden movement threw me to the ground. My knee slammed against the concrete, and the pain made my vision go black. Years ago, I had sprained my ankle at this very rest stop. He had carried me on his back for over a mile to the nearest clinic, cursing himself the whole way for letting me get hurt. Back then, Ethan truly treated me like his entire world. Now, I lay on the ground right next to his car, and he didn't even bother to open his door. Ethan hit the brakes, rolled down the window, and stuck his head out, frowning deeply. Can't you watch where you're walking? Why did you run into the car? I sat on the ground, watching blood seep through my ripped jeans. The pain made my voice shake. You started driving suddenly. Haley cut her hand slicing peaches. She's bleeding a lot. I have to get back. He said this while sitting comfortably in his seat, not even unbuckling his seatbelt. I looked at him, suddenly remembering when I cut my finger chopping vegetables years ago. The cut was tiny, but his face had turned pale with fear. He ran out in the middle of the night to buy bandages and antiseptic, holding me afterward and promising he'd never let me cook again. Now, my knee was scraped raw, and he only saw me as an inconvenience. Get in. He grabbed a handful of napkins and threw them to the back seat. Are there any band-aids in the glove box? I asked. No. He answered too quickly. The glove box wasn't fully closed. I could see a box of waterproof band-aids inside, right next to a pair of women's flat shoes. They were all prepared for Haley. Once, the passenger seat and the glove box of this car were filled with my things. Painkillers, candies, motion sickness patches, and little things he kept just in case I needed them. Now, those things were gone, replaced entirely by the existence of another woman. The space I thought securely belonged to me had been given away long ago. He was terrified Haley's feet would hurt in heels, terrified she wouldn't find a bandage for her cut, yet he wouldn't even give me a single band-aid. Maybe noticing my jeans turning red with blood, Ethan pulled a pack of wet wipes from his pocket and tossed them back. It was the brand I used to use. Clean it up quickly. Don't ruin the leather. When we get there, go buy some ointment at a pharmacy yourself. Ethan drove incredibly fast, his phone screen constantly lighting up. It was flooded with messages from Haley on Snapchat. Ethan, it hurts so bad. Where are you? He held the steering wheel with one hand and typed with the other. Almost there. He used to never touch his phone while driving. He used to say my safety was more important than anything. Now, the person who mattered most was already sitting in his heart. Avery, he suddenly said. When we get to the campus, can you just walk that trail by yourself? Haley really needs me. I'll drop you off and you can walk it. Just call me when you're done, and we can end this. End this. 8 years of love, spoken from his mouth, felt as light as dust. No. He glared at me through the rearview mirror, raising his voice. Can you stop being so difficult? Ethan, you promised me. You walk this trail with me, and then we make the decision. He slammed his hand against the steering wheel. Fine. We'll walk. I'll walk it with you. Just don't regret it. I looked down at the dried blood on my knee. I wouldn't regret it. The person who should regret this was never going to be me. We finally arrived at the campus. I pushed the door open, and the moment my foot touched the ground, the pain in my knee flared up. Ethan was already walking ahead, without looking back. We ran straight into Ethan's old college roommates and a few underclassmen from our department. Whoa, Ethan. Long time no see, man. Avery, you're here too? What happened to your leg? Ethan said casually. She wasn't looking where she was going and tripped. That looks nasty. Ethan, you should be carrying her. Ethan didn't say a word. A guy next to them leaned in and smiled. Ethan, Haley just posted on Snapchat earlier showing the cake you got her from her favorite bakery. You two have been close for so many years. Your friendship really never changes. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere went cold. The others glared at him. The guy realized his mistake, looked between Ethan and me, his face turning slightly pale. I stood there, my fingers tightening around my purse strap. Ethan and Haley were childhood sweethearts. Everyone knew that. Standing next to him as his wife, I felt like an unwanted intruder. Ethan didn't bother to explain. He just flicked his cigarette ash. Haley hurt her hand, so I bought her a cake to cheer her up. He said it so naturally, as if he didn't need to hide it from me at all. Avery, don't take it personally. Ethan has always treated Haley like a little sister. One of his friends tried to smooth things over. Ethan glanced at me. She was bored at home and insisted on coming back here to walk down memory lane. I don't really have the time for this nonsense. The truth was, I had worked overtime for a week straight just to clear my schedule to accompany him back to our alma mater for the alumni homecoming preparation. But in his words, I became an idle housewife dragging him here to waste his time. The looks on his friends' faces shifted. Years ago, right in front of the restaurant next to this plaza, Ethan had knelt down and proposed to me in front of everyone. He had said Avery was the pride of his life. If anyone dared to disrespect me, he would fight them on the spot. Now, he was the one throwing my dignity into the dirt in front of these same people. Ethan. Haley ran up from behind and wrapped her arm around Ethan's. 5 years ago on this plaza, Ethan had yelled to the world that I was his destiny. Everyone who witnessed it remembered that day. Now, he looked down at Haley, all his gentleness and patience reserved for her. Watching them stand together, I suddenly realized there was nothing left to fight for. This relationship had rotted long ago. There was no going back. Why are you here? Ethan's voice softened instantly. My hand hurt, and I was scared being alone at home. Once the cat calmed down, I took an Uber over. Ethan took her hand, inspecting it closely. How could you be so careless? Didn't I tell you to wait for me at home? But I missed you, Haley said, tugging his arm playfully. Only then did she turn her eyes to me. Oh, Avery's here too. Why is your leg still bleeding? Ethan, why didn't you take Avery to get patched up? Ethan frowned. She insisted on coming here first. People around us began to whisper. Ethan probably heard them. He let go of Haley's hand and walked toward me. He didn't ask if I was in pain. He just pulled a napkin from his pocket and handed it to me. Wipe it. I didn't take it. I stepped back. No, thank you. I glanced at the arm Haley had just held, feeling a wave of nausea. You guys catch up. I'll head to the trail first. I turned and walked away. Haley called out from behind, Avery, please don't be mad. I just wanted to come see Ethan. I didn't look back. My jeans rubbed against the raw wound on my knee with every step, sending sharp jolts of pain up my leg. But I kept walking. The trail was lined with beautiful maple trees. Now that it was autumn, the ground was covered in a thick blanket of golden leaves. 8 years ago, this was where Ethan had first taken my hand. I walked to a bench halfway down the trail and sat down. I pulled a worn sketchbook from my bag. I had kept this book safe for years, terrified of ruining it. Inside were drawings of Ethan and journal entries of our years together. Once, during a storm, Ethan was so afraid the sketchbook would get wet that he held it tightly against his chest under his jacket. He ended up with a high fever and was bedridden for 3 days. Back then, he said this book held our beginning, and it was more precious than his own life. I touched the cover where he had written, Avery's personal diary. A tear fell onto my hand. Over the years, whenever things got hard, I would look at these drawings and tell myself that Ethan used to love me. But as I flipped through the faded pages now, I knew the Ethan who cherished me was dead. Footsteps sounded behind me. Ethan walked up, with Haley trailing beside him. Haley was holding 2 cups of hot coffee. Avery, have something warm to drink. No, thanks. Ethan frowned. Just take it. Haley stood in line for a long time to get this. Haley stepped forward to hand it to me, but she tripped on a root and the hot coffee splashed directly toward me. I dodged to the side. The hot coffee splashed entirely over my open sketchbook. My book. I lunged to grab it, but Ethan grabbed my arm first, pulling me back. What are you doing? Can't you see Haley got burned by the hot coffee? He grabbed Haley's hand to check it. Her skin was barely pink, but her eyes were already brimming with tears. I'm so sorry, Avery. It was an accident. I just wanted to bring you some coffee. I shook off Ethan's grip and knelt to pick up the sketchbook. The paper was soaked through, the edges turning to mush at my touch. The sketched face of Ethan was smeared with brown liquid, completely unrecognizable. It's just a cheap sketchbook. Do you have to make such a big deal out of it? He walked over, snatched the ruined sketchbook from my hands, and threw it carelessly onto the wooden bench. Haley is wearing a white dress. How is she going to meet clients later with a dirty dress? Use this book to cover the wet bench first. With that, he guided Haley to sit down. Haley glanced at the book, didn't say a word, and sat right on top of my precious sketchbook. I stood there, staring at Ethan. The book he had risked a fever to protect from the rain was now nothing more than a cushion to protect Haley's dress. The man I loved for 8 years had personally stomped our past into the mud. At this very moment, the pain in my heart vanished. It just felt completely empty. Seeing the expression on my face, Ethan's tone softened slightly. Fine, I'll buy you a couple of designer bags tomorrow to make up for the book. Satisfied. I used to wonder how he would apologize if he ever broke my heart. I never imagined he would try to pay off our memories with a couple of handbags. That single sentence burned away the last thread of my hesitation.
Ethan.
I unzipped my bag, pulled out the divorce papers I had printed at the campus library, and thrust them in front of him. We finished the walk. Sign it. Ethan froze. His eyes darted from the document to my face. Avery, are you done throwing a tantrum? I literally just used your sketchbook as a seat cover. I am not throwing a tantrum. I looked him dead in the eye. Ethan, I don't love you anymore. Ethan stared at the divorce papers in my hand. For a few seconds, the wind, rustling through the maple trees, was the only sound. Then he laughed. It was a sharp, ugly sound, devoid of humor. Divorce? He snatched the papers from my hand, his eyes scanning the bold header. Are you out of your mind, Avery? You printed this at the campus library? You planned this whole trip just to pull this stunt. Behind him, Haley remained seated on my ruined sketchbook. Her eyes darted from the papers to Ethan's face, a flicker of something, triumph, perhaps, passing over her features before she quickly masked it with a look of deep concern. She stood up, her white dress slightly damp from the wet coffee pages beneath her. Avery, please, Haley said, her voice trembling with gentle desperation. It's my fault. I ruined your book. I'll buy you a new one, the exact same one. Please, don't fight with Ethan because of me. You two have been together for 8 years. You can't just throw that away over a mistake. Shut up, Haley, I said softly. My voice wasn't loud, but the absolute lack of anger in it made both of them freeze. What did you just say? Ethan's brow furrowed, his chest heaving. She's trying to apologize to you. She got burned by the coffee, her dress is ruined, and she's still trying to make peace. And you're telling her to shut up? I am not fighting with her, Ethan. And I am not fighting with you, I said, looking down at my throbbing, bloody knee. The pain had gone numb, replaced by a cold, hollow clarity. I am leaving. The papers are fair. I don't want the car. I don't want your money. I just want half of the equity in the house, my personal belongings, and my freedom. Sign it, and we don't have to go to court. I'm not signing this garbage. Ethan crumpled the papers in his fist, throwing them onto the leaf-covered ground. You've been looking for an excuse to throw a tantrum all day. First it was the seat, then the perfume, then the charm, then your leg. Now you're using some old notebook to threaten me? You think you can manipulate me like this? He stepped closer, his shadow falling over me. This was the man who once spent 3 hours in a rainstorm searching for a specific brand of throat lozenges, because I had a slight cough. Now, he looked at me as if I were a stranger, blocking his path. I'm going to take Haley to change her dress, Ethan said, his voice dropping into a hard, threatening register. I suggest you walk back to the parking lot, get in the back seat, and cool your head. When we get home, you're going to apologize to Haley. I looked at the crumpled papers on the wet ground. I didn't reach down to pick them up. I had a digital copy saved on my phone, and my lawyer already had the original draft. I won't be in the parking lot, I said. I turned around and began to walk away, limping slightly as the dried blood pulled at my torn jeans. Avery, don't you dare walk away from me. Ethan shouted behind me. If you walk out of this park alone, don't expect me to come looking for you. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. As I reached the edge of the trail, I heard Haley's soft, pleading voice. Ethan, let her go. She's just angry. Go after her. And Ethan's irritated reply. No. Let her walk. She wants to act like a child? Let her see how far she gets without a car. They didn't know that my lawyer, Sarah, had already arranged a ride for me.
As I
limped out of the campus gates, a black sedan was waiting by the curb. Sarah herself opened the door, her eyes widening when she saw my leg. Good God, Avery, what happened to you? I tripped, I said, sliding into the passenger seat. The leather was clean, cool, and carried no scent of heavy, synthetic jasmine perfume. And I'm done. Sarah looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. She reached into the glove box and handed me a first aid kit. Let's get you patched up. Then we go to your house before he gets back. The house on the east side was quiet when we arrived. It was a beautiful townhouse we had bought 2 years ago. I remember how excited Ethan had been when we signed the deed. He had carried me over the threshold, promising that every corner of this house would be filled with our laughter. Now, it just felt like a hollow shell of drywall and expensive furniture. I didn't pack everything. I didn't want the dining table we chose together, or the custom-made sofa where we used to watch movies on Friday nights. I packed my clothes, my professional design equipment, my books, and the small wooden box from the top shelf of the closet. The box was heavy. Inside were dozens of sticky notes. "Don't forget your umbrella today, my queen. Left some soup in the fridge. Heat it up for 2 minutes. I love you. I miss you already. Only 4 hours until I get to hold you again." I took the box to the kitchen. The E-ZPass statement was still taped to the refrigerator door, the bold red circles I had drawn around the west side exit, looking like bloody wounds against the stainless steel. I opened the wooden box. I didn't feel tears. I just felt a profound sense of exhaustion. I took the notes out, threw them into the kitchen sink, and struck a match. The paper was old and dry. It caught instantly. Bright orange flames licked the handwriting, turning the sweet, desperate promises of a younger Ethan into black, curling ash. When the fire died down, I turned on the faucet, washing the gray residue down the drain until the stainless steel sink was completely clean. I left the wooden box on the counter. Empty. "Are you ready, Avery?" Sarah asked from the doorway, holding one of my suitcases. "Yes," I said. I took off my wedding ring. It was a modest diamond, chosen when we were still struggling financially. He had offered to upgrade it last year, but I had refused, believing the original ring held the purity of our early love. I placed the ring inside the empty wooden box on the counter, closed the lid, and walked out the door. Ethan didn't return home until past midnight. I knew this because our smart lock sent an alert to my phone. I sat in the small, furnished studio apartment I had rented near my office, watching the notifications. 12:14 a.m., front door unlocked by Ethan. In the past, if I wasn't home by 9 p.m., his calls would flood my phone. He would call my colleagues, my friends, even my parents, his voice frantic with worry. Tonight, there were no calls. Not a single text. He likely thought I was staying at a hotel, trying to punish him with my absence. He probably expected me to crawl back in a day or two, seeking comfort, ready to accept his half-hearted apology and whatever designer bag he bought to sweep his emotional infidelity under the rug. I turned off the notifications, blocked his number, and went to sleep. For Ethan, the reality of my departure didn't set in immediately. Later, I learned from our mutual friends what happened in the days that followed. The morning after our confrontation, Ethan woke up late. He was used to the smell of freshly brewed coffee and a neatly laid-out suit. Instead, the kitchen was cold. When he went to the fridge to find something to eat, he saw the E-ZPass statement was gone. He walked over to the counter and saw the empty wooden box. When he opened it and saw the wedding ring resting against the dark velvet lining, his first reaction wasn't panic. It was anger. He tried to call me, only to find his calls going straight to voicemail. He sent a flurry of text messages, but the blue iMessage bubbles instantly turned green, a sign he had been blocked. Frustrated, he called his mother. "Mom, Avery is throwing another one of her fits. She packed some clothes and left her ring on the counter. If she calls, you don't coddle her. She needs to learn that she can't use divorce as a threat. Every time she gets jealous of Haley." His mother, who had always been fond of me, was quiet for a long time. "Ethan, did you really drive past Haley's apartment over 100 times this month?" "It's on the way to my clients." Ethan snapped. "Why is everyone acting like I'm a criminal?" "Avery has never been a jealous woman," his mother said softly. "If she left her ring, Ethan, she isn't trying to threaten you. She's letting you go." "She'll be back," Ethan muttered, slamming the phone down. "She has nowhere else to go." To prove his point, and perhaps to soothe his own growing unease, Ethan invited Haley over that evening. Haley arrived wearing a new silk dress, carrying a bottle of expensive wine. She looked around the townhouse, her eyes lingering on the empty spaces in the living room where my paintings used to hang. "Oh, did Avery take her things?" Haley asked, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy. "Ethan, I feel so terrible. If I had known my presence would cause so much trouble, I would have kept my distance." "It's not your fault, Haley," Ethan said, pouring himself a glass of wine. He felt a strange tightness in his chest as he sat on the sofa. Usually when he came home, the house smelled of lavender and cedar. Tonight, it smelled of dust and the takeout boxes he had ordered for lunch. Avery has become insecure. She's letting her imagination run wild. "Well, you have me now," Haley said, sliding closer to him on the sofa. She reached out to touch his shoulder. "I can cook for you tonight. What do you want?" "Can you make the lemon chicken Avery usually makes?" Ethan asked without thinking. "My stomach has been acting up all day." Haley's smile stiffened slightly. "Oh, I don't really know how to make that. How about I order some Thai food? There's a great place nearby. Ethan looked at the takeout menu she pulled up on her phone. He felt a sudden, sharp pang of irritation. Avery knew his stomach was sensitive to spicy food. Whenever he was stressed, she would spend hours simmering a mild, nutrient-rich broth for him. Sure, Ethan said, his voice flat. Thai is fine. A week passed. I immersed myself in my work. As a senior landscape architect, I had a major project launching in the city center. The long hours were exhausting, but they provided a welcome sanctuary. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't occupied by thoughts of what Ethan wanted for dinner, whether his shirts were ironed, or why his gas bills were so high. I felt lighter. My knee was healing, leaving a faint, pink scar that reminded me of the day I finally stood up for myself. Ethan, however, was beginning to unravel. The silence in the townhouse was deafening. He had expected me to break within 3 days. By day 7, he realized I hadn't just changed my number. I had vanished from his life. He tried to find me at my office, but the security guards, who had been briefed by Sarah, refused to let him pass the lobby. Mr. Miller, Ms. Avery has requested that all communication go through her legal representation, the receptionist said, her tone professional but laced with pity. She handed him a business card with Sarah's office details. Please do not attempt to contact her directly at her place of employment. Ethan felt his face burn with humiliation. Several of my colleagues were walking through the lobby, whispering as they saw him being turned away. This is ridiculous, Ethan yelled, slamming his hand on the reception desk. She is my wife. I have a right to speak to her. You have the right to remain silent, Mr. Miller, unless you want me to call the police for harassment. A calm voice spoke from behind him. Ethan turned to see Sarah walking into the lobby, holding a thick manila envelope. Sarah, Ethan gasped, stepping toward her. Tell Avery to stop this nonsense. We need to talk. I can explain everything about Haley. There is nothing to explain, Ethan, Sarah interrupted, her expression ice cold. She handed him the envelope. These are the official divorce papers, filed with the court. Since you refused to sign the copy Avery printed, we had them formally served. You have 21 days to respond. Ethan looked at the envelope in his hands. The weight of it felt like lead. She's really doing this? He whispered, the anger suddenly draining from his voice, leaving him looking hollowed out and pale. Over a misunderstanding? It wasn't a misunderstanding, Ethan. It was a slow, deliberate erosion of respect, Sarah said. And frankly, you're lucky she's only asking for half the house equity. If we go to trial and I introduce your E-ZPass records, your GPS logs, and your financial statements showing the thousands of dollars you spent on Haley's emergencies using joint accounts, a judge might not be so generous. Ethan's heart dropped. Joint accounts? I only bought her some gifts. She was going through a hard time. Save it for your lawyer, Sarah said, turning on her heel. Have a good day, Ethan. That night, Ethan sat in his car outside Haley's apartment building, the very building he had driven past 108 times. He didn't feel the thrill of secret devotion anymore. He just felt cold. His phone buzzed. It was a Snapchat message from Haley. Ethan, the faucet in my bathroom is leaking again. Can you come over and look at it? I'm so clumsy. I don't want to flood the place. Pleading face. Ethan stared at the screen. For the past 2 years, whenever Haley called, he would drop everything. He had convinced himself that she was fragile, a helpless little sister who needed his protection. He had convinced himself that Avery was strong, independent, and didn't need his constant attention. But now, looking at the message, a sudden memory flashed in his mind. It was 3 years ago. Our kitchen sink had backed up, flooding the floor while Ethan was away on a business trip. I hadn't called him to complain. I hadn't cried. I had rolled up my sleeves, watched a YouTube tutorial, bought the tools, and fixed the pipe myself. When he returned, the kitchen was spotless. I had laughed and showed him my grease-stained hands, proud of my new skill. Why didn't you call me? He had asked back then. Because you were busy working and I can handle things, I had replied, smiling. He had taken my strength for granted, using it as an excuse to neglect me, while rewarding Haley's manufactured helplessness with his time, his money, and his love. Ethan got out of his car and walked up to Haley's apartment. He didn't use his key. He knocked. Haley opened the door, wearing a silk robe. Ethan, you're here. Come in, the bathroom is. Where is your cat, Haley? Ethan asked, stepping into the apartment. His voice was quiet, almost eerie. Haley blinked, taken aback.
What?
Oh, Mimi? She's hiding under the bed again. Her anxiety has been so bad. Mimi died 6 months ago, Haley, Ethan said, looking her dead in the eye. The color drained from Haley's face.
What?
No, I got a new cat. A similar one. Really? Show me her food bowl. Show me her litter box, Ethan said, walking into the living room. The apartment was pristine. There was no pet hair, no scratching posts, no scent of animal litter. Show me the vet bills. You asked me to rush over here last week because the cat was having severe anxiety. You made me drive 80 miles an hour, ignoring Avery's sickness, because of a dead
Cut.
Ethan, I was just lonely, Haley cried, her voice rising in panic.
She
Reached for his arm. You were spending so much time with Avery. You were drifting away from me. I just wanted you around. Ethan looked down at her hand on his sleeve. And your hand? He asked, his voice shaking. The cut from the peaches? The one that was bleeding so much you couldn't wait 10 minutes for me to help Avery off. The concrete. Haley instinctively tucked her hand behind her back. Ethan grabbed her wrist, pulling her hand forward. Her palm was smooth, flawless. There was not even a faint scratch, let alone a wound that required urgent medical attention. You lied, Ethan whispered, the realization hitting him like a physical blow. You lied about everything. And I threw away my wife for your lies. Ethan, please. Haley wrapped her arms around his waist, sobbing into his chest. I love you. I've loved you since we were kids. Avery didn't deserve you. She's so cold, so distant. I'm the one who truly cares about you. Ethan stood frozen. He looked around Haley's apartment. On the coffee table lay a brand new designer handbag, the one he had bought her using his joint credit card last month. In the corner stood a pair of expensive heels he had purchased because her feet hurt during a walk. Everything in this room was paid for with his guilt, his neglected marriage, and Avery's tears. Get off me, Ethan said, his voice flat. Ethan. Get off me, he roared, pushing her away so hard she stumbled back onto the sofa. He didn't look back as he ran out of the apartment, the sound of Haley's frantic cries fading behind him. Ethan drove like a madman. He didn't drive to the west side. He drove back to our old college campus. The night was dark, the campus plaza empty and silent. He parked his car, leaving the door open, and ran toward the trail. The maple leaves were damp from the night dew, sticking to his shoes as he stumbled down the path. He reached the wooden bench halfway down the trail. The bench was empty. On the ground beside it, half buried under wet leaves, was a crumpled piece of
paper.
He knelt down, his knees sinking into the cold mud, and picked it up. It was the first page of the divorce papers. He looked at the wooden bench. The wet stain from the coffee had dried, leaving a dark, ugly ring on the wood. He ran his hand over it, searching for the sketchbook. But the sketchbook was gone. Earlier that week, I had returned to the campus to retrieve it. I had dried the pages as best as I could. The drawings of his face were ruined. The ink bled into meaningless dark smudges. But I hadn't thrown it away. I had kept the blank pages at the back, using them to draft new designs for my upcoming landscape project. It was a reminder that even from the ruins of something broken, something functional and beautiful could still be built. Ethan sat on the cold bench, clutching the crumpled paper to his chest. For the first time in 2 years, he wept. He wept for the woman who used to wipe his car seats with lemon water so he wouldn't get sick. He wept for the woman who had kept every single one of his sticky notes in a wooden box, treating them like treasure. He wept for the 8 years of devotion he had traded for a superficial illusion of being needed. The wind blew through the barren maple trees, cold and indifferent to his grief. The day of the divorce signing was clear and crisp. I sat in the conference room of Sarah's office, sipping a cup of hot tea. I wore a simple cream-colored trench coat, my hair pulled back neatly. My knee was fully healed now, no longer causing even a twinge of discomfort when I walked. The door opened and Ethan walked in. I almost didn't recognize him. The man who was once so meticulous about his appearance looked hollow. His suit was wrinkled, his hair unkempt, and there were dark, heavy circles under his eyes. He had lost weight, his cheeks sunken. When his eyes met mine, a flash of desperate hope lit up his face. Avery, he whispered, taking a step toward me. Mr. Miller, please take a seat on the opposite side of the table, Sarah said, her voice commanding and professional. Ethan hesitated, then sat down slowly, his eyes never leaving my face. Avery,
Please.
just 5 minutes. Just let me speak to you. I know the truth now. Haley lied to me. I kicked her out of my life. I haven't spoken to her since that night. I swear to you, nothing physical ever happened between us.
I was
Stupid. I was blind, but I never stopped loving you. I took a sip of my tea, then set the cup down gently on the saucer. I looked at him. I had spent nights wondering how I would feel when I finally saw him again. Would I feel angry? Would I want to scream at him for the pain he caused me? For the blood on my knee? For the ruined sketchbook? But looking at him now, I felt nothing. Not anger. Not hatred. Just a mild, distant pity. The kind you feel when you see a stranger make a foolish mistake on the street. Ethan, I said, my voice steady and quiet. It doesn't matter. What? He gasped, his eyes widening. Whether you slept with her or not, whether she lied to you or not. It doesn't matter anymore, I said. The moment you left me bleeding on the concrete to go to her, you chose your path. The moment you let her sit on my sketchbook, you threw away our past. I don't care about Haley. And I don't care about your regrets. Avery, please don't say that, Ethan pleaded, tears spilling over his eyelashes. He reached across the table, trying to grab my hand. We had 8
years.
8 years of beautiful memories. We built a life together. You can't just erase that. I'm not erasing it, I said, gently pulling my hand out of his reach.
The
8 years happened. I loved you deeply, and I don't regret the love I gave
you.
But that Ethan, the one who cared about me, the one who loved me, is dead. You killed him. And I am not going to spend the rest of my life mourning a ghost. Sarah slid the final divorce decree across the table, along with a sleek black
pen.
The asset division is exactly as we agreed, Sarah said. You keep the townhouse, but you must buy out Avery's half of the equity within 90 days. The joint accounts have been frozen and divided equally. Sign here, here, and here. Ethan looked at the pen. His hand was shaking so violently he could barely pick it up. If I sign this, it's really over, he whispered, looking up at me, his eyes red and pleading. No second chances?
No counseling?
Nothing. Nothing, I said. He stared at me, searching my face for even a flicker of hesitation, a hint of the woman who used to look at him with unconditional warmth. But he found only a calm, peaceful void. With a heavy, ragged sigh, Ethan pressed the pen to the paper. His signature was shaky, a messy scribble that looked nothing like his usual bold handwriting. He signed all 3 copies, then let the pen roll out of his hand. Thank you, I said. I stood up, buttoned my coat, and picked up my bag. Avery, Ethan called out, his voice cracking. Will you ever forgive me? I paused by the door, looking back at him one last time. I already have, I said softly. But forgiveness doesn't mean I want you in my life. It just means I'm ready to forget you. I turned the handle, walked out of the conference room, and stepped into the elevator. As the doors closed, separating me from the crying man inside, I looked at my reflection in the polished metal. For the first time in a very long time, I smiled. The air outside was cold, but the sky was incredibly bright. I pulled my coat tighter around my shoulders, stepped onto the bustling street, and walked forward into the rest of my life.